Hello there. Welcome to yet another episode of Velocity by Hawky.ai. So today we have Varun Kaushik, who is the CMO of PolicyBoss, and it's very rare to see someone who has had very versatile experience like what Varun has, especially in the marketing field. Has been working, had experience both with respect to B2C, B2B, and now in the middle of that in B2B to C as well. And someone who has seen both the side of things, the enterprise customer acquisition to, let's say, the consumer or the B2C customer acquisition, as well as more in terms of the enablement kind of customers as well. And I think over last 18 years, you have seen it all in terms of how new channels emerge, how the consumer behavior sort of spans and changes over a period of time, and so on and so forth. Let's learn from him how this journey has been so far and how digital marketing has evolved in the last a couple of decades. Just as we speak, Varun mentioned he had just crossed a decade in the current firm that he is working on. And congrats to that, Varun. And great to have you in podcast. Hopefully, we'll have a really great and fun conversation today.
Yep, looking forward to that.
Sure. Yeah, Varun. So I think as I gave a quick intro about you, you have had extremely variety of experiences so far in terms of B2B, B2C, and then B2B2C, and so on and so forth. Why don't you give a quick intro about yourself and your journey so far in a bit, and then we'll go deeper into certain topics, Varun.
Sure. Thanks for that, Surendran. A little bit about myself. I'm a marketing executive with over, uh, you know, 18 years of experience across, as you rightly said, B2B, B2C, and now B2B2C. I've gone through the motions. My first half of my career was largely in the IT industry, where I, worked across both IT product and services as well as IT infra. Was there when the whole cloud boom came in, was working with a data center major, have had the rare opportunity to be part of launch of about five, six large scale data centers. And then from there on, I moved on to insurance as an industry, which has been another ride of its own. I had a very different contrarian view about this industry prior to joining this. And now, having spent a decade in this industry, I kind of understand the lens a lot better. But quite honestly, that's as much as it has been a professional journey of understanding the finer nuances around consumer marketing or distribution led businesses. It's also a revelation on how behaviors actually change,
Mm,
especially when it comes to consumption within financial services as a category itself. Because out here we've dabbled across product
mm,
lines, we've had our own hits and misses. So all in all, this has grounded me in very finer nuances of revenue optimization. Looking at the entire funnel view of how the ops are leading. Marketing to me is a rhythm. It's not really a function.
mm,
It's something in motion. It used to be looked upon when I started my career. We largely it was a set
mm,
field where set things are supposed to do. The level of dynamics at play were lesser, possibly because we as a country were lesser evolved. To put it in very simple words, things have changed dynamically now. Today, a marketer is a revenue driver. It's in a seat of authority as far as the make or break for the next growth chapter of any organization is concerned. And I think that kind of places marketers as the core nervous system, one of the most coveted executioners for the strategy side of things. And that's the lens that I work with. I mean, at PolicyBoss, I'm the conduit between business and tech. As a marketer, it is my role to ensure whatever experience we intend to build and deliver gets executed not just on paper but on ground. And of course, a reciprocity of what's working, what's not working, and how that's stacking up. From both a number standpoint as well as from a impact to business standpoint. So that's the lens that I work with. I hope that gives you a perspective of how I kind of go about my stuff.
for sure, Varun. This is really great actually. While you spoke about marketing and insurance a bit, right? So I'd want to go first deeper into insurance. Before that, can you give a quick intro into what PolicyBoss does and how is it different from the other InsurTech platforms, and maybe if you can give an intro there, we'll go a little bit more deeper
Sure.
there.
So PolicyBoss actually is the digital presence of landmark insurance brokers. We've been in this business for over a decade and a half. We've been known in the industry to be one of the leaders in the private car insurance segment on the broking side. And we have kind of transformed our business model, pivoted our business model. We used to be entirely B2C. At one point of time, we used to operate one of the largest call center operations, contact center operations at one point of time. And then we pivoted that entirely from B2C to being B2B2C. So what used to be 90-10 at one point of time between B2C and B2B2C is reversed today. 90% of our revenues are now coming from the agency channel, which is the B2B2C channel. And that's largely thanks to the regulators' introduction of what are known as the POSP guidelines back in 2017. That has transformed insurance distribution a lot. I think it was a very welcome step. Insurance in India largely suffers not because of pricing, not because of anything else other than trust. And one constant about insurance is the category that differentiates this product category from any other financial services category consumption, and that's my personal belief. Yes, you at any given point of time may try out a new banking app if it's offering you some new age features. You'll try out a new trading platform for virtue of it having some AI angle to it or something on the brokerage side. You will definitely try out new lending platforms who are offering you lesser headache, lesser paperwork, and lower rates of interest. But when it comes to the subject of insurance, you never interact with an unknown, untrusted entity when it comes to the subject of insurance, irrespective of who you are. Now, this trusted part entity could be a person, it could be a company, it could be a your bank's relationship manager, it could, for that matter, be a website. But trust is the operator word here. And that's what we at PolicyBoss have largely been focusing at. We are trying to create a balance between comparison, convenience, and trusted advisory. That's the core to how we operate. We feel insurance in India is very, very transactional. It continues to be. And I think the way the industry has evolved over years, it's now moving into a more advisory led approach. And that's where we are. We are building one of India's largest advisory led insurance buying platforms where there is equal
So,
value creation for all three stakeholders: customers,
mm,
the partners or the agents who are selling through our platform, as well as insurance companies. Because there is a what we're trying to create is intelligence as a currency for each of them to make an
okay.
informed decision, for the consumer having the simplicity and trust to be able to consume insurance in the manner they deem fit, for agents to be able to have transparency and absolute clarity in understanding the nuances of the terms and conditions, typically very long lengthy documents and carry a lot of caveats, and for the insurance companies the pure channel play in terms of how things are operating across different geographies, across different product sub-product categories, and where does the risk actually lie. Because what we're trying to do, Surendra, is we're trying to reduce the variability in decisioning
Mm,
across this layer. And I believe that is the need of the hour. It's how you would,
mm,
especially for insurance as a product, to my knowledge, the best way for you to kind of answer that whole trust deficit is by reducing the variability, because there are a lot of moving parts in the equation, and it does tend to overwhelm due to sheer technicality of it, or the sheer volume of it, or the sheer information overload about it. So that's what PolicyBoss is all about.
got it.
PolicyBoss is all about simplifying that entire consumption cycle and creating a win-win situation for every one of the stakeholders, as I said.
Got it. Got it, Varun.
And
I mean, I was noticed. Yeah, please,
just
please.
to add to that
Yes, please.
effect, we today operate across over 800 pin codes through our partner network. We have, relatively speaking, smaller workforce of agents. We work with roughly around 40,000 odd agents as partners who represent us. Just to clarify, the POSP model is, in essence, in very simple words, a sub-broking model where the POSP is effectively a sub-broker. So he's my representative. But an interesting part I'd like to tell you about insurance broking which very few people know outside the industry, is in the entire realm of insurance intermediaries and insurance service providers, there is only one insurance intermediary type, that is the representative of the customer. Everybody else is the representative of the insurance company. And that representative of the customer is actually an insurance broker. So while
Hmm.
all others
Got
represent
it.
insurance company, it's the broker who represents the insurance customer, the policy buyer. And that's
Got
kind of what
it.
differentiates a broker against any other insurance intermediary.
Got it. Makes sense. And I think a couple of things that you spoke about, I wanted to double down there. One is you mentioned about the trust that is needed for anyone to pick up an insurance, which is true actually. When I was buying corporate insurance recently for the company and a group medical insurance, right? And the process was not that easy. I think the criteria to decide and so on and so forth. I think it was not that easy as well. Now, but one thing I wanted to understand there recently, I think two waves I can see, especially from the outside in perspective of looking at insurance, right? One is, of course, like yours is there, Policy Bazaar is there, and so on and so forth. And then we also saw the brands that evolved, I think, became giant on its own as well, becoming giants on its own as well, like your Acco, Digit, and so on. And then you have the new age brands as well, like maybe Care, Ditto, and so on, which came up recently as well. Yeah, it just now looking at maybe an Acco or a Digit looks like it's a huge brand, but I think when they started, they might have also gone through the same thing because it's not easy to create a trust as a new brand that's coming up, right? So, how do you build a trust in this space, Varun, in terms of especially when you're not a really old brand, right? So, when you're a young brand, how did you manage? Maybe when you joined Policy Boss, it was a 5-year-old brand, right? So, how does that happen? How do you methodically build trust in the system?
It's all about enablement. If you look at the common thread across Policy Bazaar, the names that you mentioned, right? Policy Bazaar, Echo. Let's just find what is the common lens of the problem they've solved.
Okay.
Uh, at the end of the day, all of them collectively will agree on these three aspects. The experience of buying insurance itself. How do you embed the trust factor within that buying journey itself? That's each has had their own ways of building it around, but that's largely the subject that they've attended to in the first place. Second part that they've kind of done really well, all of the new age ones, is getting people into a habit of comparison, which is more aided 360 degrees and less linear towards pricing alone. Because let's be honest, insurance is one of the most price sensitive retail product categories in the country. I have personally seen customers being lost for a deficit of 10 rupees also. And the difference in premium being 10 rupees as well, kind of, because let's take an example of, say, a relatively older two-wheeler where the policy value would possibly in a few hundreds. This is a tier 3, tier 4 person, and the way he looks at the same product or the same expense is not the same way as what somebody else from some other part of the country would. And for that person, maybe the 10 rupee difference is a big enough decision maker, right? So for a very long part, for a very long time, insurance transactions have been very, and insurance conversations on the purchase side have been very price sensitive only. It's always, I've seen that transition happen in person where, it used to be just premium, premium, premium. Now customers themselves are asking for add-ons, and that's the third part that they've been able to solve, you know, bringing the whole
Mm.
wholesome protection picture into play. It always existed. Add-ons were always there. This is, look, we're talking about a 5-6 decade plus old industry. There were always add-ons. But the maturity in understanding, the awareness in understanding what does that really imply, how does that impact me as an end user. Right? There was always an engine protect cover for car insurance. There was always a tire cover. But it's only when the claim happens, the moment of truth comes in at the time of claims. And that's where, as the claim volumes have grown over the years, as maturity in car owners or and I say this specifically from a car insurance lens as an example, that as the user
Sure.
maturity
Yeah.
comes in, awareness becomes easier. So you have lesser preaching to do, more practicality to show. And I believe that's what most of the new age players have been able to do successfully. Some do it directly, some do it the way we do, which is more through a distribution landscape. So in our case, we end up enabling the reseller in this case, which is the partner agent, and he does that heavy lifting, in terms of explaining the nuances, taking that advisory route, telling the customer why he should look at specifically including a particular add-on, why it makes more sense. I think those are the finer nuances that now have been simplified, which is why you see some traction coming up. Having said there's enough and more headroom, well, we're talking about a product category that has less than 4% contribution to GDP
Yeah,
on the overall lens. Enough and more headroom to grow. I believe there's a lot more space in this industry. Yeah, I mean, bigger insight is the trust factor is a combination of these finer nuances that end up building the experience. And at the end of the day, experience does matter now when it comes to insurance consumption. It possibly, I may not be able to comment on how things were 10 years, more than 10 years back. I wasn't there to look at it then. But from whatever I've seen over the last 10 years, the nature of conversations have evolved. Customers are asking more questions than anybody else. They're questioning aspects of underwriting, aspects of why this is covered and why this is not covered, and why should it not be priced at certain. These questions weren't there in the first place. It was all about just premium. मेरा
mm,
premium क्यों बढ़ गया? Why is the premium higher this year? I have not taken a claim. Then also the premium is going up. There was lesser patience in understanding the reason and the rationale, which I think now, with more information being made available, with more purposeful marketing being done, that clarity is slowly, kind of.
super. Got it. Got it, Varun. So I think, yeah, you mentioned about the process of buying itself and the comparison, the experience and the clarification, right? So I think this is what is helping to establish uh, brand overall, right? So now in India, I mean, is insurance still a push or is it a pull product? Like if you have to tell it on a very broad sense, is it a push or a pull product? Or
It is push. It'll continue to be
okay,
push at least for another decade. I
okay,
don't see that changing. Let's be honest.
wow, okay,
Despite all the,
okay,
despite all the
okay,
hype, hoopla, at least I'll be honest enough on this matter. And that's there's a practical reason to it. I believe at best it'll end up being a contextual pull category, and I'll explain how. you
mm,
know where does insurance become relevant? When more and more number of people start buying houses, when more and more people start having family, when more and more people start buying assets that require protection, when the asset or the asset class that requires higher protection, lesser variability, when that grows, the ask will grow. Okay,
okay,
now, and there is a mindset change that has happened. The earlier prevalent mindset was, I have money. If something happens, I have money, I'll take care of. So there was a very clear divide between those who have money, don't need insurance, and those who are in the process of making money and are semi insured. Today, adequacy of insurance for those who are buying insurance is of prime importance. Like you gave me an example about you yourself trying to, evaluate options around group medical. Why are you doing that? Is that
mm,
something you
mm,
have to really offer? Was that something that was the norm, say 10 years, 20 years back? No. That's the mindset change that I'm talking about. There's more consciousness in
mm,
the need to protect something that you hold value to, be that an employee, be that an asset. And I think that's where it is. For a long part, this industry has kind of, the narrative has largely been either emotion around fear or the emotion around care. But
okay,
relevance based advisory is something that's only recently started coming up. And I believe that relevance based advisory, where it's the right size, right fit kind of a approach, is where you'll start seeing things changing. It's largely, I would say, the question. Let's look at it from the consumer's lens. Earlier it was, what was the question driving thought for anybody was, what if something happens?
okay,
Then
yeah,
what? Whereas today that question is kind of changed to, how do I best protect what I've built? That's where the generational shift is. That's where the ideological shift is. That's what would give turn the headwinds into tailwinds for an industry like ours.
got it, got it. Interesting. So and especially in the space where there are new age brands which are probably, let's say, have made the buying process as well a little bit easier lately, right? Let's say the Acco or the Digit or Rito and so on and so forth. How's the agency model, or rather, like I would say, how is the agent model evolving now? What are the kind of I mean, is there any particular audience section that you try to target particularly, or you see like it's almost, let's say, you mentioned 90% of your business comes from the agents, right? So, is there any pattern there? Who chooses an agent? Who chooses to go direct, and so on and so forth?
See, let's look at the published numbers and try to understand it from that lens, because a lot of it can be answered from that part. And I largely would like to refer to the regulator's annual report. The last released
Okay.
annual report, if you look at that, you'd see that in India, there are total roughly around 50 lakh odd insurance agents, which means
Okay.
there are
Okay.
50 lakh, at least 50 lakh households that have income from insurance as the primary source of income or
Wow.
as a source of income, right? Fairly large
Okay.
number to look at.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
agency channel for the longest possible time I can think of has been the prevalent dominant channel contributing insurance premium in terms of the what we call as GWP, the gross written premium, right?
Okay.
And the reason for that is an insurer cannot have presence down to the last mile and be able to have that kind of insurance is a very, very complex operation. The cost, the capex requirements for insurance as a category are equivalent to any any other financial services. And the difference being consumption of any other financial services product is less technical, relatively speaking, and doesn't have a risk
Mm.
angle. If you're opening a, if the objective is to open a bank account, what is the downside to it? But if you were to underwrite a policy which has wrong declaration, then that's the risk an insurer runs, right? So distribution in India played a very key role to insurance penetration. And when IIDA, came about the POSP guidelines, from then on until now, to my knowledge, there are over 20 lakh plus POSP agents now. And by the way, just to clarify,
New agents.
it is
Okay.
both an insurance company as well as an insurance broker that can appoint a POSP. So a POSP can either be that of an insurance company or it can be
Okay.
of a insurance broker. But what is the main technical difference here? There are coverage-wise cappings for products that a POSP can sell. Why is that?
Mm.
The whole objective of bringing about the POSP guidelines were to make sure the penetration goes up by making the distribution of relatively simpler underwritten products better, faster. To cite an example, an insurance POSP, technically speaking, can do a private car insurance up to a premium of 50,000 rupees or a health insurance with a sum assured of about 5 lakh rupees across
Mm.
product categories.
Okay.
Why is that? The driving thought here is this is not a career agent right now. Possibly he might be. Even then, there are advantages because compared to the traditional agency model, where today you are able to represent five insurers per category on a single agent code. As an insurance PSP, there is no upper cap on the number of insurance companies. The number of insurance companies the broker is associated with or is working with is the exact number you will be able to give as options to your customer. That takes away that capping of the head for a regular agent. But look at the growth. No,
Okay.
7 decades, we've been able to get 50 lakh insurance agents combined across general and life insurance.
Mm.
And possibly in the last 8 7 8 years, we've reached 40%, for nearly 40 50% of that number on the POSP side. So that can give you a very clear answer around how the POSP
Yeah.
channel has progressed. And that's where we are aligned at. That's how
Mm.
we differentiate ourselves. That's how the whole cookie crumbles on this side. It's been,
Mm.
as I said, a revelation and a clear change in the behavior dynamics at play. That's what is kind of driving the whole piece out.
Got it. Okay. So one thing that I wanted to understand there, with insurance, let's go more in deeper into the marketing also, right? So how does this differ from selling directly to a customer, especially when you talk about a CAC, right? So I think insurance historically has been one of the highest CAC products, like relatively, right? So uh, does the same applies to acquiring a POSP agent as well? And how does that differ, like overall acquisition process from a marketing lens? How
No,
does it
see,
differ?
it took us quite a while to be able to identify how can we acquire this person whose primary source of income is insurance digitally.
Mm.
I mean, it
Yeah. Yeah.
took me about, I think, roughly around 4 5 years to crack it, quite honestly.
Mhm.
Because
Okay.
on most of the advertising platforms, there even today there aren't any filters readily available of in audience cohorts. So an insurance agent as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
cohort is not neither available on Meta as a platform nor on Google as a platform. Those are their top two advertising platforms, right? So it's the combination of so many micro filters, which are behavioral attributes,
Mm.
which are affinity segments, which are in market segments. And the over years, how we've been able to kind of see what works for us, what doesn't work. And that has led to detailing out the kind of personas that we want to target, the kind of people we want to target. And that's how the whole piece has grown. Yes, you're very, very right. The CAC in this industry, if you are a marketing heavy organization in insurance, is very, very high. But I think the true measure of how you should be looking at it is if your branded presence grows and CAC falls, then that's a clear indicator that your branding efforts are coming through, which means you'll have to sell and spend lesser on the awareness about who you are. So that discovery part is first thing that any marketing outfit will have to kind of take care of. The second contributor to the CAC side of things is largely the conversions and the default rates in journey. As I said, it's all about the experience. It's all about how you were able to build it as intuitive as possible, simplify things as much as possible. Because even the process of acquiring an
Mm.
insurance agent has some mandatory regulatory requirements. There are
Mm.
certain instances and nuances of documentation that need to be completed. There is a finite time. It's not that you gave me a lead to become an insurance, or you showed interest to become an insurance PSP right now, and in the next 1 hour, I'll be able to effect that out as a broker. That's not how this happens. Typically, an acquisition process
Okay.
could be as low as 3 days to as high as about a few weeks, depending on availability of documents and them being acceptable from a regulation standpoint.
Mm. Got it.
So
Got it.
that's the part around the CAC for acquiring the agent. And as far as the CAC around the customer part is concerned, that's an easier cookie to crumble if you are able to maintain the quality of agents at your end, are able to boost the productivity at a certain percentage. That's largely enablement. The more features you add, the more you give as arsenal in the weapon in the overall weaponry for the agent to play around with. How see what are the typical problem statements for an insurance agent, purely from acquiring customer standpoint. I have less time because there is a very heavy operational overload. There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of nuances. Some conversations are fresh, some are, say, at a court level, some conversations are at a proposal level, some are pending payment. That's the typical life of an insurance agent. It's a very back office heavy kind of operation, right? We run at a scale. There are parallel things happening. How can you, as a insurance broker or as an insurance service provider, help me simplify this backload? That's one problem statement. Second, the most gruesome part about insurance agency business is the insurance commissions are always deferred. You've sold the policy today, your customers gotten the benefit today, but the commissions are going to get paid at a later point of time. And that is also subject to a whole lot of reconciliation, a whole lot of, comparison income statements coming at play to see what you've been paid, what was the income estimate versus what you got. Again, a lot of operations, a lot of calculations to be done, very time consuming. What this has done is this has taken away the productive time of an agent, the same time that he could have deployed in possibly servicing or finding out new customers, has gone into
Mm.
these servicing side of things. And on top of that, if there is even a single claim that his customer comes in for, all attention will go there because that's the proof of the pudding. These are areas where we built innovations which are India first, industry first, only insurance service provider, or rather the first insurance service provider who started giving out real-time insurance commissions. So on our platform, for certain product categories, you get paid instantly. The moment you make a policy sale,
Mm.
you get paid. The second way we've been able to change that variability in the equation is we brought about a feature that we call as live brokerage. So typically, an insurance agent, when he's wanting to make a sale, he's looking at different commissions payable from different companies, and he has a lot of time goes in that. His focus should be protection. His focus should be customer first. His focus should be making sure the product fit is right. But he's getting into
Yeah.
this whole income calculations, which takes away his attention also. It kind of dilutes the whole buying process as well. We've
Yes.
attended to
Yes.
that. We've
I've
attended to
experienced that.
that, wherein the
Yeah.
moment you take out a quote on our platform, you will see the commission payable for each of the insurers before you even make the sale right on screen in absolute rupee value.
Okay.
And we still insist and say, don't let the commission be the driving point for you. Look at the protection part. So we also in our quotes
Mm.
highlight for the same, roughly the same construct, which insurers are giving a better coverage. Because when you go and see the policy details, you'll be able to see what all coverages are coming across from each of the insurers. And that also
Mm.
constitutes into the whole scheme of things, right? And as far as discovery of new leads or new business is concerned, there's a patent pending feature that we made, which we call a sync contacts, that allows an agent to convert his mobile phone into a lead factory by being able to make or identify business opportunities from his own contacts.
Wow. Okay. Got
And
it.
so this is the way we've been able to bring our CAC down, because when you
Yeah.
build such features like these, overall productivities go up. I'm spending lesser per customer per policy acquisition overall. And because this is working, this acts as a magnet, natural magnet for other players to start considering moving to work with us, because there are better realizations, faster realizations, more transparency in operations. At the end of the day, that's what the problem solving then happens for both the customer as well as the agent in one go.
That's right. Yeah, got it. Now, I mean, as you keep speaking about that part, like it feels the landscape is little complex as well, right? I think you will have three personas that you are going to probably sell to or market to. You will be selling to the ultimately the customer, then the agent, as well as to the insurer as well, right? So now, is it right? Like, do you have these three personas in your marketing plan, and you have separate narratives and separate, let's say, messaging for all three, or like, what is your marketing construct look like Varun, from a messaging and persona standpoint?
So, first of all, insurers are partners, not customer or stakeholders. And we,
Okay.
we work with insurers.
But you'll have to acquire them as well, right? Like you say
Well,
40
we've
plus
been
or 50
sitting on a
plus, though.
1,000 crore plus book. We've been in the business long enough, so that
Okay.
genuinely is not a challenge for us. Today, we are
Okay.
working with over 40
Sure.
insurers, by the way, across
Okay.
general health and life. So that's not really a challenge for us. Acquisition of it,
Okay. That's not
no,
marketing's
no.
job as well. Like
No,
it's
that
already
that
sorted.
that part
Okay.
is
Got
sorted.
it.
So
Sure.
marketing needn't do anything there. But yes, you're right. There are three
Okay.
user personas. The first user persona to acquire is obviously the agent partner. The second user persona is essentially customer, but retail customer or B2B customer, because we also offer SME line products like GMC,
Okay.
liability covers,
Yeah.
workers' compensation, the likes. Corporate side of
Okay.
insurance is also something like so. The user personas differ across, because one we are talking about an individual, the other is a company. So that's how it is, and then there are sub segments within them. They say if we take the example of an agent, it could broadly be classified into three types. It's a career agent, somebody whose primary source of income is insurance. That's one user persona. Then there is individual involved in solicitation of financial services. So it could be a money transfer agent, it could be a bank PO agent, some other financial services. He also has insurance as one of the offerings, but he sells mutual fund also, he sells loans also, he sells. That's the second type of individual. And then there is a third type,
Okay.
which is more ecosystem play. So players like, or rather, individuals who are, say, garage owners,
Mm.
clinic owners,
Mm.
testing lab owners, those who do not have a direct insurance play but are wanting to make an income out of that piece, that source. That's the third one. And of course, you always have a new to market persona, which is an individual who's wanting to,
Okay.
who doesn't know much, is wanting to. It could be someone who's
Mm.
a retired person. It could be someone who's a student who's looking for a side income, or a housewife who's looking at some alternate revenue stream. Then that's your NTM on the new to market segment. Similarly, there are
Mm.
some segments on the retail user side, like In case of car insurance, it's a, whether it is a entry level car owner, or a mid level car owner or a high end car owner, because the considerations will vary considerably. How, no offense, but how a Maruti car owner versus a BMW car owner would approach the same subject are two very different
Yeah,
equations altogether.
that's
And the
right.
B2B side
Yeah.
is very, very need driven, very, very business specific. So, like, a company that is more into services have their risk profiles very differently from, say, a chemical plant, or versus a
Mm,
manufacturer,
mm,
versus, say,
yeah.
possibly a footwear brand. I mean, we've got over 1,000 corporate clients as well on that side, where we are taking care of the organization's insurance needs across a multitude of different avenues. So it's a very varied piece. And yes, as you said, I mean, the idea is we have the messaging map and the journey flow designed for each of these sub personas. That's how the whole piece rolls out. Most of it at the L1 level, I would say, is automated today. You will
Okay.
not see us. See, we are a very strong distribution brand. We are not as focused on the retail presence as we are on the distribution presence. So
Okay.
that's how we kind of build and maintain. Of course, in the coming time, we will
Mm,
definitely pivot towards the retail side as well. But that's consciously a decision we've taken, that for now, our focus is first to carve our presence out clearly in the distribution side of business, and then move on to the retail brand scheme of things.
got it. Got it, Varun. So, when I was looking at some of your content, especially the ads content in Meta Ad Library, right? Like the Policy Boss content, I think mostly, as you said, is focused on the agents itself. But having said that, maybe for a brand which has a customer persona to acquire, let's say the agent is a relatively much smaller audience segment compared to the retail buyers, right? From a size standpoint. So you have good amount of velocity of ads and creatives. Like there is too many ads as well as creatives going on, and there is a variety in a lot of these creatives, which I don't even see in brands who are fully retail in a sense, right? So there are around 200 active ads that I saw in the ad library before coming to the episode. Where does that come from? Is it a conscious effort to probably, let's say, figure out the communication, the messaging, or you have figured out a formula that's working and you are doubling down there? Like, why are there so many ads, especially so many variations there
It's a
currently?
combination of both. It's a secret sauce. Yes,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
one that, as I said, took me quite some time to crack. It's not an easy one. But
Okay.
the
Sure.
simpler reason or the answer to this question is, I've figured out what's working in what part of the country and how. And
Okay.
that's what the number is for. A person sitting in Delhi versus somebody sitting in Chennai versus somebody sitting in, say, Kolkata versus somebody in Himachal. Different things ring with different people. I cannot have the same
Okay.
narrative across, because today in India, underwriting has matured to pin codes, even for a subject like car insurance. I
Wow.
cannot
Okay.
afford to be generic. I cannot afford to be seen as a generalist. In some
Mm,
parts of the country, the larger volume of business would be lying in a particular category, and I would be focusing my outreach only to cater to that segment.
mm,
For example,
got it.
the toughmost category to crack is finding out those guys who do school bus insurance digitally. Very
Okay.
unorganized. We are not some Most of them are semi-literate. Yes, they use WhatsApp. Yes, they use Facebook. Yes, they use the Swiggy, Zomato, Amazons of the world, but they are not MBA grads. They're not the literati. They're very grounded, earthy people having a very tight control over a very niche segment. It's not,
Yeah.
that's just to give you an example of why there would be so many
Yeah.
variations,
Yeah.
because it warrants that level of depth in messaging, that level of pointedness in the outreach, in the targeting rationale,
Mm,
and that level of relatable call to action specific to
mm,
that niche, specific to that particular product category, specific to that seller segment. It's not a
mm.
one size fits all strategy.
Got
That's
it.
the reason why there is that higher count.
No, that's great. Actually, I think this is a really case study that that's there for why you need let's say different messaging for different people. I think even now Meta and Google ad algorithms also are recommending more precise messaging and precise let's say number of variations for your product that can resonate well with different personas, and not just say that hey, we have less premium, or we have less let's say higher coverage and so on and so forth. Meta and Google are actually asking you to speak in the language of who is looking for. Maybe someone is looking for bus insurance and school bus insurance. What is something that we should talk to them, how that content can reach to them, is something that you should engineer before you ask Meta to do that. So I think that's something that we are seeing as a really good strategy, especially lately after the Andromeda update and so on and so forth.
See, I'll tell
I
you
think
what.
yeah, I would
I'll
love
tell
to
you what.
probably let's say.
Technicalities have
Mm,
always been there and they'll continue to be. Algorithms will only evolve. Technologies will only become more intelligent. Choices will only become more harder for marketers. That's all
yeah.
there.
Okay.
Genuinely, Surendra,
Sure.
it's all noise for me. All noise. It does not matter.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. One part that has actually, one small part of the secret sauce, which I can definitely share as a nugget. I have very clearly understood the aspiration of my target audience. And I have made credible, fair, scientific ways of understanding this. I have commissioned researchers
Okay.
to just understand
Mm,
if this agent in Chennai, what does he really want in life? How can I get him get
mm,
there? It's got nothing to do with insurance. It's pure
mm,
psychographics. It's pure human behavior at play. It's purest form of persona mapping to need analysis. The very fundamentals of marketing at play. Again,
mm,
same things that have been taught across all these schools. The very simpler
okay.
aspects
Mm,
of business is really what makes the difference. It's these everything else. No, I'm sorry, I am a student of science. I practice art and science both in what I do. And having said that, I always, when things become overbearing, no, I always tell my team, listen, dump it down, dump it down.
mm,
We can't, I am not an intellectual heavy, intellectual high kind of a brand. Neither is the industry that. Then why
mm.
pose as a literati? I'm grounded, I'm earthy, I'm rustic. That's who I am. And I
Okay.
take great pride in being that way because business is happening that way. So why change
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Having said that, where do the aspirations lie? Where does the aspiration of my sales guy lie? Where does the aspiration of my consumer lie? Where does the aspiration of my
Mm,
partner lie? When you talk to a wealth manager, these are the typical questions a wealth manager asks you for creating a wealth management plan, your portfolio plan. I
correct.
borrowed it from them, curated it for my lead
Yeah.
in making my
Yeah.
acquisition a lot more layered, a lot more intelligent, lot easier to execute.
Got it. But no, that's great. I mean, how fundamental it can go to, right? Ultimately, that's where
Look, I
you have
always say
strengthened
I
it.
come from a
Uh,
dinosaur age of marketing automation. When I started my career,
okay.
marketing automation stacks used to be very heavy, on-site deployments with heavy server workloads and
Mm,
very, very deep
mm,
integrations being done across systems to measure. And
mm,
any change that has to be made has to be made through a change request. It has to be done in time. You have to plan in advance. From that circa 2026 today, where well, it's cloud, everything is cloudified. And
yeah.
let me also,
Yeah.
not trying to be controversial here, but let me also add, it's not just the infra that has been cloudified. I honestly feel the understanding also is a lot cloudified. It's one thing to say I have marketing automation, another one to say, have you been really able to mark it down, tribute it down to how it's actually defining it to revenue metrics. Not talking ROI, not talking
Mm,
ROAS. It's that's cliched, done, dusted with. Tell me, how does the
okay.
marketing effort boil down to a CM1? How does that boil down to a CM2? And
Okay.
at the end of the day, the pad that's
Okay.
coming through, how is marketing helping do that or make that bigger at a lesser cost? And that's where my value matrix come into play. If I don't align myself with business
Got it.
at this depth, at this level,
Yes.
branding, everything else will happen. It'll keep happening. But it's this granularity and understanding how as a function you are aligned with the business down to the last rupee. If I don't do that, I cannot sit as an equal opportunity partner on the table along with the management. Sales will eat me for lunch, but management will eat me for business, and operations going to eat me for dinner.
Got it. Got it, Varun. No, that's great actually. I think ultimately how fundamental it should get to and how deeper we should go, right? I think that's great. I think most of us get to forget that while we are working on the at a channel level or at a, let's say at a tech level and so on, right? I think someone is who is guarding this has to be so strong that the focus is not getting
I'll
deviated
give you
as well.
another example. I have a lot of peers who are CMOs across other organizations. One common problem they keep citing is, यार content बना लिया, likes वगैरह
Sure.
सब आ गए,
Okay.
पर business नहीं बढ़ रहा. That's a myth, no. Just because you have more content
Yeah.
does not mean we are not in that age anymore where the algorithms used to value
Right.
freshness of content, more content, keyword
Mm.
densities. No, that's all passe now. And quite honestly, whom are you
Mm.
making it for? Are you making it for the bot? Are you making it for the crawlers? Or are you making
Yes.
actually for the users who are going to be using your services? I, a
Right.
common thing I
Yeah.
keep saying is, what has the Swiggy's, Zomato's, Zeptos of the world made as content? Do you see case studies? Do you see white papers? Do you see a whole bunch of infographics coming into play? Their content is their platform. Their content is
Mm.
the level of the how I say and why I say that is, with every passing day, if your usage of these platforms goes deeper, you have no need, yet you are trying to figure out मैं क्या देखूं, मैं कुछ that
Yeah.
psyche that they've evolved, that is their content. And for all the brands that are actually creating value and not valuation, that's the common thread you will see. Their processes,
Mm.
their platforms itself are the biggest content. Everything else, so that's the core, and then everything else is are satellites around it. And I think that's the best way to build a
Got it.
fundamentally strong business. You need to
Mm.
crack your core. If you keep focusing on the satellites, the core will never get strengthened. Keep on making content, get influencers, get celebrities, everything you've got. But the delta in business impact, very high mouth of the funnel, very low conversion,
Mm.
because you spent all this
Mm.
energy in the external factor. What about the actual consumption journey? Where did the enablement happen then? Is there a celebrity telling which product to pick? Listen, do this. That's not what you spend for. You spend for possibly an advertisement or some branded content
Mm.
using a familiar face or a hefty voice weighted in the industry that open the doors for you. What after that? How much of that is being able
Got it.
is the customer being able to live through in the journey that you made? That's the proof of the pudding. And I believe that's where, when I said
Yeah.
marketing automation is as much on cloud as it is cloudified as an understanding, that's actually what I meant. I keep hearing vague, sometimes absolutely interstellar jargons these days of newer things, like चंकिंग हो रही है आपके कीवर्ड्स की एंड आप देखो मीटियोरिक से मैं बोला भाई ऐसा है इंडिया में बात करके लेट्स टॉक ग्राउंड सीन minus all of this also we've come through to a certain scale. Of course there are some part of it that are nuances. AI will definitely change the landscape for marketers, but if you the core fundamentals won't change. How and how much a business, a brand, individual will be is able to extract out of it purely depends on the strategy you're adopting. If your strategy is hope and pray, then that's what you're gonna get. If your strategy is too scientific, then the human aspects will get ignored. If it is too behavior centric, then the science part will take a toss. So you have to find your sweet spot. Where does it really lie?
No, these are really great insights and opinions, Varun. I think thanks for sharing this much in elaboration. We are sort of moving into the last section, more like a rapid fire. So we have collated a few questions that we thought where we can get your quick opinion on. Yeah, the essence is to keep the answers really small but unfiltered, right? So as much as possible. So let's try to go for it. I have around 8 questions that I have put out, so we'll quickly go through that. Yeah. Indians buy insurance because they have to. Is it true or false?
Neither true nor false. It's very I can't.
Okay. elaborate?
Okay, it's if you had you asked me for a specific product category, say car insurance or health insurance, the answer would have been very different. When you say insurance, I can't really give you a
Okay,
single
okay.
answer because
Hmm.
it's a multitude of so many.
So let's say car
Have to,
insurance.
have to,
Let's take motor insurance.
have to.
Have to. Okay. Not because they need it, just because
No,
they have to take it.
have to with the understanding that it is required. So need drives the consumption here.
Okay.
Now,
Let's say tomorrow there is, let's say the government says you don't necessarily have to take a car insurance. How many percentage of people you think will
I
still
think
take it?
more than 50% will not take. That's the
Okay.
honest
Sure.
reality. Yes.
Got it. Right. Okay. So now insurance needs more branding budget compared to performance budget.
False.
True or false? Now I'll just put you on spot here. Like Policy Bazaar, Acco, Ditto, or any other player in the space whose marketing efforts and
Sorry,
brand
say
you
the
really
names
admire.
again.
You can pick any names, but I've just given some examples. Policy Bazaar, Acco, Ditto.
All of them in some manner have have their own finer nuances of storytelling. Only a couple of them have narratives.
Okay. Okay.
With all due respect to Policy Bazaar, they've actually I call them they're no longer an aggregator, by the way. So that's a misnomer. I keep correcting that
Okay.
a lot. People have a habit of saying aggregator for us as well as for them. Neither are they nor are we an aggregator.
Hmm.
They are an insurance broker. We are an insurance broker. But I give full credit
Okay.
for to them for building the narrative around getting India in the habit of comparing insurance. Full marks for that, right? Digit
Great.
around simplifying and making insurance in a manner done unlike any other. So those are the two ones I want to call out purely on the narrative they've been able to build. The others are
Yes,
more
true.
storytellers,
Okay.
less narrators. And that's where the difference lies.
Sure. Got it. Got it. So, in your opinion, what is the biggest waste of money? TV versus influencers, like costly influencers, celebrities.
You ask this from an insurance industry lens, or
Yeah, yeah. From
see,
your industry
very difficult
lenses.
to answer because the it purely depends on what would be able to emanate trust more. Actually, I'll give you a classic example.
Mm, mm.
Without naming the brand, there was a particular brand that brought about a ad with had the message around "Sar utha ke jiyo," and then there's another very prominent brand in our industry who for years has been saying "Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi," and none of these had any bigger celebrities being endorsed. At the same
Mm,
time, there is a
mm,
new age brand that did get a celebrity involved, and quite a I would say quite a well timed one as well. And that has worked in at least getting the right eyeballs, getting the attention, and then being able to share their narrative across with those audiences. Each to his own. How you're able to. So the core is what efficacy of marketing in terms of storytelling and narrative you're able to build. Whether it is TV ad or whether it is influencer is secondary. This is what is primary.
But if you still have to choose, which is waste of money or let's say more unnecessarily expensive, either TV or celebrity.
These days, influencers outweigh TV ad. A typical TV ad
Okay.
minus a celebrity of of course, they kind of outweigh on the spend side of it.
Mm, got it. Okay. And what's your favorite search ads versus FB lead ads? Google search ads versus
Google
FB
search
lead
ad
ads.
versus.
Facebook lead ads or Meta lead ads.
Uh, I'll be more specific. Not
Mm,
search, but performance max definitely.
okay.
Custom audience in Meta. Nuances of search
Okay.
and all. Not getting into that, but the exact thing
Yeah.
that kind of matters.
Okay. The super great. And which channel is? I know both are almost dead or diminishing, but what do you think is totally dead? SMS or email?
None. No
None are
way.
dead.
No way. I don't
No.
believe that at
Okay.
all.
Okay. Great.
It's
Okay. That's
look,
that's great to
I
hear.
don't know.
You are seeing SMS email for B2C
No, no,
particularly.
no. See, none of them are at the end of the day today. For any insurance transaction you are effecting out, where are you checking it? It's not coming on any other place other than an SMS or
Mm. Service communications, yes. For
even
marketing as a
marketing as a
channel.
channel. Email as a platform has evolved a lot. It's no longer that static piece that used to come in.
Yeah, that is true. content has evolved, but what about
It's
the
undergoing
read rates and
a
open rates?
resurgence as we speak for a simple reason. Every behavioral fad or every behavioral trend has a defined shelf life. Today we are in a date and age where your pop-ups and your in-app notifications are at an all-time high. People are switching them off. You are bugged by notifications. You get to a point where you start unsubscribing to all of those.
Yes,
You want that absolute pointedness in what you want to receive. With the advent of mobile technology, today you are able to also articulate and clearly pinpoint what do you want to be notified for and what you don't want to, right? Forget mobile
correct.
phone, your watches are
Yes.
carrying those, smart watches are carrying those features as well. This same reason why smartwatches are now kind of giving way back to traditional watches is the same reason why SMS and email is resurging even in this date and age, purely because of the
Mm,
simplicity. It's only as much.
mm,
I don't have an essay to read. On the first glance, I'm able to understand what it is. It's a regulated space. When you talk about SMS today, it's no longer the same play, and thanks to the government's continued
yeah.
efforts, the telecom regulators' continued efforts in making communication, spam level communication, difficult for everyone. I think that's a very welcome move, and I mean, I'm very happy as a marketer. The more pointed the rules are, the easier it becomes for those confirming them to play. Uh,
Mm, mm,
I don't think email and SMS are gonna go out anytime, even as promotional aspects, because every other is the simplest assured delivery medium. Still, without
mm,
getting
mm.
into finer nuances,
Got
there
it.
are upper limits to what you can do in a defined day for a certain platform, because now there are timings at play. The promotional communication can only go from X time to Y time, and then also
Yes.
you're at the mercy of you being one of the first ones to send out in the same category, else half of your audiences are not going to receive the com because of some reason or the other, technicalities as they're called as. Same holds true for notifications, overload. For some brands, for some categories, that mode will always be much better than others. But for us, for financial services as a category, I think we will have to keep our communication spread across channels. So it will always be multi-channel. That's one more reason why financial services marketing, I personally feel, cannot be omni-channel. It has to be multi-channel, because somebody who's responding to an SMS versus somebody who's responding to an email versus somebody responding to, say, a WhatsApp message,
Mm,
in my experience, turn out to be three different personas. If I make it omni, I'll be giving the same experience across each of these three, which means I've not understood my user persona, which means I've generalized on the user
mm.
persona, which means the equation is wrong.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So last question from me, the rapid fire. So which type of content converts the most out of these two? Customer testimonial versus a
Testimonials, hands
celebrity
down.
endorsement.
India,
Okay,
yes.
great. Okay. Okay, sure. Cool, Arun. Thanks a lot. I think this was really great. It was nice talking with you. And I personally got to learn a lot about fundamentals of marketing, maybe like brand building and customer awareness building and so on. Right. So thanks a lot for sharing all this, and wish you all the best for rest of your work as well. And looking forward to engage with you much more in detail and maybe work with you in future as well,
Thank you
Varun.
for having
Thanks a lot
me.
for
Thank
your
you for pushing me.
time today.
It's been some time since I kind of got into the gear as I did today. It was fun, good fun. So thank you for that.
Thanks a
Take
lot,
care.
Varun.
Bye.
See